My name is Huixin Tian, and I will be presenting our research on non-literal communication in Chinese Internet spaces. The research involves a case study of the communication practice termed as phishing, not to be confused with the common Internet scam of phishing starting with PH. In this short video, I will provide a brief overview of the findings. Please refer to the paper for a more detailed discussion. Unlike literal text that can be taken at face value, non-literal text requires interpretation to decipher the intended meaning. Some typical types of non-literal communication are irony, parody, sarcasm, and satire. In Chinese Internet spaces, phishing, that is 钓鱼, is a practice that employs non-literal rhetorical techniques to lure or bait other users into interaction. It is important to note that phishing is different from trolling. Trolling deliberately vandalizes online communities by provoking and baiting people into meaningless conversation. In contrast, phishing is a light-hearted attempt to engage the audience in a discussion of topics that are often a subject of debate and controversy. Our research aimed to understand the nature and the context of the interactive practices connected to phishing. To that end, we addressed the three research questions. First, we sought to analyze the linguistic content of phishing text. Second, we wished to examine the community interaction connected to phishing. That is, the interaction between the authors of phishing content and their audience, as well as that among the audience members. Third, we wanted to understand how phishing is shaped by the larger context of the online platform and the regulatory environment within which it is embedded. To answer the research questions, we began by systematically selecting a set of phishing articles and associated comments. We then analyzed the text of the articles and the audience interaction in the comments. We connected the analysis to the evolution of the content moderation policies of the communication platform and to the larger social-political context of Internet governance in China. We examined the phishing content in the selected articles and associated audience comments with the lens of critical discourse analysis, that is CDA. We examined the textual content for its meaning, strategy, and structure, based on Botkin's theory of parody. In addition, we analyzed interactive practices to understand their connection to self-presentation, audience engagement, and characteristics of the communication platform and context. This analysis was informed by Goffman's theory of dramaturgy. The previously described phishing practices are embedded in features of the communication platform, that is, Zhihu, and the larger context of internet governance by the Chinese state. Both impact how phishing is perceived and regulated. A user on the Zhihu platform is assigned points, called thought points. One component of the thought points is the friendliness of the user's practices. In fact, thought points were originally called friendly points. The evolving policies of the platform that aim to promote friendly interaction increasingly characterize non-literal expression such as phishing as being unfriendly because of its use of sarcasm and irony. In the Chinese internet context, the Chinese government agencies tasked with regulating and monitoring internet activity issued Guidance for Internet Ecology Governance. The operational specifics depend on the interpretation and implementation of the guidance by individual platforms. Based on the guidance for creating a favorable online opinion environment for the building of a harmonious society, Zhihu has chosen to deem non-literal communication, including phishing, as inappropriate content, that is, 阴阳怪气, to avoid controversial or sensitive topics that could cause heated discussion. By maneuvering the ambiguity of language, phishing, to some extent, enables users to gain the power to discuss controversial topics without being sanctioned. As a counter, the platform wields its power by characterizing certain linguistic choices as inappropriate and against the values that are shaped by the pressure and demands of the state. Our findings underscore that non-literal communication within online communities can be useful for non-disruptive self-expression and community bonding. Based on this insight, we offer a few suggestions for platform regulators and policymakers to support non-disruptive, non-literal user engagement that can operate within the parameters of the regulatory environment. Any negotiations with and among users regarding boundaries and communication norms must leave space to deal with the ambiguity inherent in non-literal communication. Support for friendly and harmonious practices should include respectful and playful debate and creative discourse, rather than excluding any disagreement altogether. Judgments of appropriateness should be sufficiently flexible to deal with the irregular and contextually interpreted nature of non-literal communication. In conclusion, our findings underscore the need for platform policies to take a more nuanced approach to the regulation of non-literal interaction by incorporating such content in community negotiation and governance.